So this lesson is an extension of Module 2.1, and this hones in on some of the big ideas of the reason for growth of the industrialization in Europe. So what you will be doing during this time is you have this growth of industrialization. These are some graphic notes, and I will let you know where to take notes, and I will walk you through the lecture. If you need more time to copy down the notes, you just hit pause. So, first things first, our objective for today is that you will be able to describe reasons for the growth of industrialization in America by completing the summary template. So, just a quick review from what you read. We know that the Industrial Revolution is the process of developing machine production of goods. We know that it began in England and then it spread across Europe and into the United States. In America, it began in the late 1800s, and it's important because America's transformation from an agricultural nation into an industrialized nation takes place during this time. We go from having a lot of farms to larger cities. So people are moving away from farm work, they're moving off of farms, and they're moving into industrialized cities. And this will lead to America becoming a world power. How did it happen? First of all, we had a lot of labor. We had a lot of workers. Immigrants came from Southern and Eastern Europe. And then also we had former farm workers who were no longer making money on the farm. So they left their farms and moved to the city. We also had an abundance of natural resources. I know you can't see that, but an abundance of natural resources, which we'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. Oops, sorry. And then we also had technology that spread from England. Now you're going to fill out reason one here. So when we get to the next slide, you're going to put the reason and then a couple of bullet pointed notes. So reason number one for the Industrial Revolution was labor. The United States had a huge labor force. We had a lot of recent immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, and then also former farm workers moved from their farms to the city. If you need a few minutes to write that down, hit pause. Now we're going to go on to reason number two, and you're going to fill it in this area of your guided notes. So reason number two was natural resources. America had plenty of natural resources to start industrialization. We had oil, coal, and iron. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a few more minutes. And then also, we had like the Great Lakes in this area. So that was also another resource that helped us to industrialize. This area of the United States around the Great Lakes was very much industrialized. Lots of factories, not so much anymore, but lots of factories at the turn of the century. Now you're going to take notes on reason number three. So reason number three is new inventions. So Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and this resulted in better communication. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, so people could work longer hours. Charles F. Brush created the arc lamp that gave off an intense blue illumination, which lit downtown upon his invention. And you may be familiar with Brush High School, that's named after Charles F. Brush. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a few moments to write to fill in these notes. Carrying on with the new inventions, we had the Bessemer process created by Henry Bessemer. This was an easier way to make steel. It allowed for several tons of steel to be made in only about 10 to 20 minutes by blasting hot air through the melted iron. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a moment. Henry Ford invented the assembly line to produce his car, the Model T. And when we did our first unit, 1.3, some of you were reading about the primary source documents for supporting a thesis, and part of it talked about Henry Ford's assembly line. So this meant that products could be produced at a much faster rate. Instead of one person putting a car together from start to finish, they had an assembly line. The car moved down the assembly line, and a person or a group of people would do one part of the car, like put the engine in. Then someone would put the tires on the car, someone would put the doors on the car, and they would just keep moving it down. And that meant that they can produce more cars much faster because you only had to do one part of the car. So this made cars mass produced, and thus it made them cheaper and more people could buy cars. Make sure you hit pause if you need to. So now we're on to reason number 4. So another reason was improvement in transportation. So the Transcontinental Railroad was a railroad system that was built to connect East Coast to West Coast. So it connected East Coast to West Coast. Oh, I should probably hide that, huh? So that you can see better. Go ahead and hit pause if you need to see the entire screen. And this led to the growth of towns and opened up trade for most of the United States. Hit pause if you need to, a moment to write this information down. And reason number 4, with improvement of transportation, it increased steel production led to more railroads being built. Since cheap steel prices increased production of railroads, girders, cables, nails, wire, pipes, etc. So everything you needed to build railroads became a lot more accessible. It was cheaper because steel was cheaper. So thousands of miles of new railroad tracks were laid, and today Ohio has the most railroad tracks in the USA. Um, Continuing on with improvements in transportation, railroads led to faster and safer travel. They had Pullman passenger cars where you could sleep in them, air brakes, which allowed for them to stop more efficiently and effectively. This had a huge impact on the economy because not only were you transporting goods, but now you're transporting people. So you have the travel industry starting. Products could reach more markets. This affected the development of the West, which we're going to go into a little bit more depth in a few chapters. Cities grew and populations increased, and then the railroad industries became the largest employer. So a lot of people work for the railroad industries. Hit pause if you need a moment to finish that up. All right, now we're on to reason number 5. So reason number 5 is the rise of factories. So factories will bring all the labor and machines together to produce goods at a much faster rate. And it would also create child labor, which is not such a great thing, urbanization, which is another great thing not great thing we're going to look at, a higher death and injury rate before we had protections for workers. Oops, sorry, let me go back one. Let me go back. If you need to rewind and go back, please do so. Now you're going to complete the summary. And what is the summary asking you to do? Hang on. So, for the summary, what I want you to think about is which one of these reasons do you think was the most important cause leading to the growth of industrialization in America and the United States? So, you can go ahead and jot down a sentence or two saying which one of these 5 reasons you think was the most important or the most significant reason. All right. Thank you.